Hi, I'm Brian Levy. I'm the Chief Relationship Officer for Manchester Care Homes and Cambridge Caregivers. I'm also the host of the Manchester Living podcast. The purpose of the podcast is to help people navigate the complex maze of elder care. There is a lexicon of elder care terms on the website at manchesterlivingpodcast.com. Today's episode is called Nurture Therapy, sometimes referred to as child representation therapy, empathy doll therapy, or doll therapy. In elder care, this is a holistic approach, person-centered intervention commonly used to comfort and engage older adults, especially those living with dementia or Alzheimer's disease. It involves offering a lifelike doll that can provide emotional support, promote a sense of calm, and encourage gentle stimulation and daily routine. But first, today's new and noteworthy features a past resident at Manchester Care Homes. Branya would revert to her language of origin, Romanian, when she was happy or agitated. Here's a few clips of her being happy with her dolls.
Schlaf mein Kind, schlaf wieder ruhig ein. Ich ruhig dir jem, viele Wohne wein. Auf dem Himmel glänzen Sterne.
Let's get on with today's show. My guests today are Tonja Moon, founder of the Grandbaby Project and Dementia Engagement Strategies. Thank you for being here. And Sandi Levy, the Director of Nursing for Manchester Care Homes and Cambridge Caregivers, and also my wife. Thanks for being here, Sandi.
My pleasure.
Let's jump in. Tonja, what is nurture therapy and how is it used in elder care settings?
It's amazing. It is a non-pharmacological approach to especially those living with later stages of dementia. Oftentimes with dementia, people have lost the ability to communicate their loss within themselves. They can't reach out and express themselves. And so this is yet another way to allow them to connect, communicate, but most of all have purpose and responsibility when most people think they're just lost in their mind. It is a myth that people think because someone has dementia, they don't have the ability to make decisions. And that's not the case at all. They have the ability to make decisions. What they are lacking or losing is the ability to process things as they happen. So it's very similar to also reminiscence therapy. And so it allows them moments to kind of connect with their former self, either as a parent or grandparent. And it's just a really calming, relaxing thing to see in person. It's pretty spectacular.
That's a great explanation. Thank you. What makes these dolls so different? I know there's an odor component.
So yes, there is with our dolls. We're all about sensory. Everything that has to do with our dolls is about sensory. So as you know, one of the last senses to go as we progress through life is smell.
Right.
So our dolls are actually infused with an all-natural baby powder scent, because that is the scent that women around the world recognize because it is related to the hormones that are given off during birth.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like when I smell Johnson & Johnson baby shampoo.
It's that
It's
smell.
familiar.
Ours is the Johnson & Johnson baby scent of baby powder lotion into the dolls.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What are some of the emotional and behavioral benefits in people who participate in doll therapy or nurture therapy?
So we see from an emotional perspective, less depression, less anxiety, a much calmer resident or loved one, someone who is able to communicate even though they're nonverbal. And we see all different types of behaviors come to the forefront that we haven't seen in so long with some of these people. Just a smile or happiness. It's a very joyful thing for those that participate. And once they have their baby, they consider it a big responsibility and they don't want to be without it.
It reminds me of in junior high when we were doing sex ed and everybody had to carry around an egg. And that was your responsibility.
Yeah.
Similar concept.
Very similar.
Yeah.
Very similar.
Sandi, you want to elaborate some of the experiences you've had with the
I
dolls?
agree with Tonja, obviously. we see such a difference in residents when they're able to engage and express any type of empathy or sympathy or want to hold the baby doll and just show it love. You can see it in their smiles. You can see it in their eyes. And it's just a beautiful experience.
Do you use the dolls in the care homes when the residents are sundowning?
Staff love to learn about the dolls as well because it helps them feel good. And sometimes I'll have staff, they'll just carry a baby doll around with them as they're feeding a resident or taking care of someone or getting someone up. And it gives the resident a chance to look at the baby doll and, as you said, smell that smell, which I immediately recognized when I held the baby doll, that, this is familiar. It feels good to me. So as we progress through the morning, they usually will say, whose baby doll is that? And then we'll start talking about it, and then they can hold it. And as you can see in photos, they really resonate with this baby doll.
How have you seen improvements in communication or engagement during doll therapy, during nurture therapy?
So the best example that I have is just last year, we presented a baby to a nonverbal resident who was pretty what I would consider advanced in her dementia. The staff said she's not going to want to participate. This probably won't interest her. And so from my perspective, I always say, let's just try. Let's just offer. They can always say no. We're never going to force anything.
Right.
Presented the baby with her, which we have a very specific technique for doing so. And she started singing Amazing Grace. Her family was there, and her daughter just kind of started looking around and said, is that my mom? And I was like, I don't know. Is that your mom? And she said, she hasn't spoken in 2 years. And I said, she's singing. And so we have it on video, and the daughter was she couldn't believe it. The interesting thing about that is a few moments later, when the daughter went to approach her, she had no words.
Wow. So back to the theme of familiarity, music,
Huge.
pet therapy, nurture therapy, doll therapy, all of these familiar attributes, if you will, from their past lives that have faded, but they're still there. They're still there inside. You mentioned introducing the dolls.
Oh, yeah.
Walk me through that process and what's that like?
Yes. So it is a very unique process based completely around giving the resident the opportunity to engage. Interestingly enough, the goal is not to make everyone love a doll and want a doll. The goal is to provide them an opportunity to choose and make their own decision. Because when they get so far advanced in their dementia, we are in a position as caregivers, and we have to make all the decisions for them. What time we get you up, what time we get you dressed, all of those different things. They don't have a lot of opportunities to say no.
Right.
So I always say, if someone doesn't want the baby, that's a big win, because we just gave them an opportunity to say no to something, and it was all about them. So
Choices,
absolutely.
Choices.
So our introduction is a 90-second introduction one-on-one with that person. And we are in their space for 90 seconds. We approach the C in our care technique is we approach with caution and compliments and calmly, always from the front because of how dementia and the vision goes. Yeah. And then we begin, the A is for being very clued in and attentive to them. So we're striking up a conversation, compliments, interacting with them. The R is to be extremely respectful of their space. We never shove a baby in the arms of someone sitting in a wheelchair. Never. Mm-hmm. And then the E is just to give them the empowerment. And so throughout the conversation, we're pointing out different attributes about the doll, and we're asking them what they think. Our process and our stance is we never, when we introduce a baby, even use the word baby or doll, ever. Because I don't want that resident I don't want to put thoughts in their mind of what it is. They may think I'm holding something else.
Right.
And so we do what we call a submissive offering. We offer from the floor on our knees up to the resident, usually in a wheelchair or sitting on a couch, because I want them to look down at us. So we're completely submissive to them. So when we hand over the baby, we simply say, "Oh, what do you think of this?" Only if their eyes dart to the baby. The moment they look at that baby, then we say, "Oh, what do you think of this?" And if they say, "Oh, that's a doll," or "Is that a baby?" we use their verbiage because they're always right. So if whatever they think it is. Just like we let them name the baby, and that's a whole interesting topic on its own, but we'll say, what do you think of naming the baby? What would you name the baby? And I always prepare caregivers and staff. If they're having a good day and it's Henry or Harriet, wonderful. If it's baby giraffe, they're always right. That's a beautiful name.
Whatever you want to call it. Sandi, we've talked about it's such a pejorative connotation when family members walk in and they're like, why are y'all playing make-believe with my mom? Why are you playing make-believe with my dad? Yeah. Sandi's had experiences where families are resistant.
I've had a few families to ask questions when they see the baby dolls in the house, and they'll ask me, "Oh, is my mom going to be playing with a doll?" And I'll explain to them it will be your mother's choice, and that we'll introduce it slowly and see, like as Tonja said, and kind of see what the interest is all about. And as you can see it in their eyes and their smile when they want to hold the baby doll versus them just kind of looking back. Sometimes when we admit a new patient or new resident, I don't introduce anything like that. I just want to help them get acclimated to their new space. But once we start to show it, introduce it to them, we've had a few that have, completely turned away. But as Tonja said, it does promote their verbal skills. It helps them to process what's happening here. There's something that looks familiar to me, but I'm not quite sure, or it smells familiar. So sometimes I've had residents refuse, and then a week later they'll see another resident holding the baby doll, and they'll start to ask about it. The nonverbal residents, I would say, in my world, are much more likely to take the baby and show it love. The verbal residents tend to be a little bit more apprehensive. And as they watch the other residents with them, they'll start asking questions about the baby as well. And, again, I don't name it. We've always said, what do you think you should call this? We've gotten all kinds of names. Some people will actually pull names from their own grandchildren.
100%.
So it's a beautiful thing. Yes.
There's so much psychology behind it. Sandi, tell me what's the story when you walked in the resident's room and you said, "Where's so-and-so?"
So I'll tell you a little story. So we have a resident who does have a baby doll with her, and she loves to hold it. She does not like to come out of bed a lot. So she does everything. She listens to Frank Sinatra and will hold the baby. And one time I went in her room and I said, "Oh, where's Maddie?" And because the baby was not in her bed, she said, "Oh, Maddie went to the bathroom. She'll be back in a little while." So it was fostering communication and humor. And we don't laugh. We never laugh at our residents and we ask questions. So I said, "Oh, well, do you think she'll be back soon?" She says, "Oh, she'll be back in about 10 minutes." So it's right. Yes. And so then we carried on with our activity. And then as she got up, then, we reintroduced the baby back into
engagement like this truly is entering their world. And as you said, it could be a giraffe, it could be Maddie, it could be anything. But we enter their world.
Absolutely.
There's so much psychology behind this. Do cultural or personal histories affect the resident or the client, the patient, if you will, how they respond to nurture therapy?
That's not been my experience. Although with the Grandbaby Project, we absolutely pay attention to culture, and we have a variety of ethnicities available to ensure just inclusion. So we have all different races available to match up with residents because that cues their familiarity, right? Culturally, I've not seen a big difference. We'll get requests, from certain cultures. Could you dress a baby one way or another? And we always oblige. We're always happy to do that because that's just better for the resident. And so,
as you guys, I want both y'all to address this. How do you see staff at assisted living, at our care homes, et cetera, engaging with the residents with something like this? So they embrace it. I know. Yeah.
I have a great story. I have a caregiver that made her own baby Bjorn. And she put the baby in her baby. As soon as we got them, she put it in the baby Bjorn, and she just started doing her thing, serving breakfast, brushing hair, brushing teeth. And the residents were looking, and finally one asked, what is in there? And she just kind of put it out and said, "Oh, it's my friend, And the resident immediately wanted to engage with the baby, talk to the baby, dress the baby. And it's just nice to watch how staff interact with the baby, and they pick up on that because they have so much, obviously, respect for the staff and people who are caring for them.
It's engagement, and it's different than bingo. It's different than dominoes. It's different than movie night.
It's very one-on-one.
This is true engagement. Yeah.
So I've got so many stories, but one in particular that just warms my heart every time I talk about it is we had a staff member in a community who had lost a child, unfortunately, and the executive director was very concerned about, how will this affect her and things like that, because it's all about nurturing the baby, And so we had lots of conversations, and we had lots of conversations with that particular caregiver. She was she was so valuable and beautiful, and we just didn't want to disrupt her emotions along with this, right? And so I said, I'm just going to leave a baby and just let's visit in a month. Like, we're not going to rush this, right? Because it's important. It's not going to be any value to the residents if you have a caregiver who shies away from it, right? And so I said, before we do any education, anything, let's just leave it. And it was like 3 days that caregiver called me, and she was just very tearful. And she said, I've been carrying this doll around for 3 days. And she said, I am so shocked at how much better I feel. So talking about psychology and research and all that good kind of stuff. So there's lots of research out there about how when we hold a baby or a puppy, there are different, dopamine and all kinds of things released in us. And she said, as a new mother and smelling that baby and the newborn diaper on that baby, I just found so much comfort. And so she was bought in. And she was like, everybody needs to experience this. So I call it a God wink. It wound up being something that we never anticipated, but I have found too that staff, we started doing a little bit of research last year to see how a community with doll therapy, how it affected turnover amongst the staff. And we're just now starting to see some trickle down numbers, but staff will often, when they get stressed, pick up a baby, walk around and pat it, just kind of, they're anxious, and it just kind of brings the level and the energy down. And I never expected that. That was a big surprise to me, but it's pretty amazing. Staff have their favorites, and so they'll have a different name for theirs than the residents or the loved ones, but it's a really positive, unexpected surprise.
What's the protocol in terms of having the same doll with a resident, and can you come and go? Can you leave a doll and then take it with you for a week and then bring it back?
Absolutely. So, the key for us is to understand the culture and personality of the community, because we want to be a part of the tapestry of that community. We don't obviously want to be a disruption. So we've got some implementation protocols that we suggest that we've seen that work best, based on the community. I am not a proponent of leaving babies just out on the couch or in a crib all day, every day.
It kind of lose the effect.
It does. I feel like it really does. And I feel like it's all about engagement, right? And so have a specific time, maybe 2 to 3 times a week, you specifically bring out the babies for a specific therapeutic activity with the babies. So you will have residents who, we go to take the babies to daycare so that you can eat and rest and whatever. And you do have some residents who are like, nope, I want my baby. And so I'm like, pick your battles, for your community, what works best. So you're always going to have that. But being able to bring them out, it just reignites everything for them. And it's just, their eyes just start to light up again, and you just get to start all over with them. And they will remember their baby and the baby's name. But I tell communities, don't get caught up if it has a different outfit on or anything, don't sweat the small stuff. They will remember the baby and the name.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Sandi, do you have experience when you take the baby away from one of the residents? Are they agitated, or do they understand that baby's going to take a nap?
That's a good question. I really haven't experienced any agitation, because I don't just take the baby and move it. I'll explain to them, we're going to have lunch now.
Right.
I'm going to take the baby for a little while you eat. And then as soon as you're done, if you want to hold the baby before her nap, we'll put her back in your arms. And they're usually very, very open to that option.
So the key is communication, as with always, communication with someone who has brain change, but you're still communicating about something they pretty much can understand. Tonja, how can people access this program? And do they have to do it through your program, or are there other programs? Walk me through that.
So there aren't very many programs, unfortunately. You will see that a lot in the senior care community, you'll see that there's life stations, and there's maybe a crib with a whole bunch of babies in there, but there's not a lot of comprehensible programming and training behind that. So I always say the baby, it's like a beautiful cupcake. everybody loves cupcakes, and the baby's all the cute icing and sprinkles on top. But if you don't have the training and all of the stuff to back it up, the cupcake just tastes bad, you know? And so,
Great analogy.
yeah, because everybody loves cupcakes. But so people often ask me, well, why do I need your dolls? We can just go buy dolls. I'm like, well, you could. And then I'll go into what makes our dolls so unique and so different. So we are the only organization out there that has comprehensible program and training, not just for the senior care community, so even for families. So families can come to our website, customize their baby, and order a baby for a donation all on their own. So we package it up really beautifully. And when they get that baby, they have a specific card that has a QR code that goes to a video of me doing introductory training, like a role play. I'm talking them through different scenarios. We pack that with all kinds of activities for them to do one-on-one with their loved one. And so as far as an entire comprehensible program, in my knowledge, we're the only ones that have that specific to dementia doll therapy. So we have 2 rules at the Grandbaby Project. The first rule is if we ever have someone approach us who can't afford a doll or whatever, there's just no question asked. We fundraise. That's what we're about. We get them a baby. So we want to make sure that caregivers at home have instruction, right? And have training. It's not just handing a baby. It's got to go beyond that. What are you going to do with it tomorrow? What are you going to do the next day? I mean, how are we going to keep mom or dad engaged?
What I want to say is the main takeaway is babies do come with instructions.
Yes.
Mine just
say that.
My babies just didn't come with instructions.
That is so, say that. That's
I just did. I winged it.
Oh, yes. Make sure that gets in there. That is so good.
That is the takeaway. Babies don't come. I have twin boys. They didn't come with instructions. Wow. These babies do.
They come in a lot.
All babies should come with a QR code.
They should.
Yeah.
They should go with
So there, right. So there really is a program. It's not just here's your baby and we put some baby powder on it. It's a program.
Evidence-based.
So evidence-based. You talk about fundraising. Tell me about that. Can somebody just send you a check and say, here's $100, I want a doll, and they get a QR code? Do they donate at choice?
So the way that we work is we have a doll kit, basically a baby kit that's offered through our website for a donation. And it includes all of their materials, their baby. They get blankets and bottles and all kinds of fun stuff. And so they get that for a donation. We ship it directly out to them. And then in communities, we have the babies and we offer our training, and that training is through Dementia Engagement Strategies, our other firms, our other arm. And that is, ongoing. We have CEUs, we have all of these different things, and a whole entire program around dementia doll therapy. I had to go to Japan to learn it. There was nothing here. So I studied abroad to learn about dementia doll therapy. I Googled dementia doll therapy class and there was nothing. And I'm thinking, but wait a minute, everybody has these life stations in these buildings. Well, how are they getting trained?
Right.
Well, there was nothing. And so I thought, okay, if we're really going to take this to the next level, we can't just raise money and drop off babies.
Sure.
Because those babies will wind up in a closet, not out of malice, but because caregivers are so busy. Even at home, there's so many tasks to be done and keeping that loved one safe. And so I just thought we've got to have training that can stick, that is easily accessible, where it can really, truly make an impact and difference. Because if we just drop off babies, I mean, that's a fun afternoon with some cupcakes and punch. Right. That's all you're going to get out of it.
Just an activity.
And I literally say, without the training and the programming, you have a toy. With it, you have a therapy tool.
Beautiful.
Makes all the difference in the world.
Wow, that's great. Sandy, I know we've talked a little bit about the cleanliness of these babies. How do you clean, or how do you have the staff or keep the babies clean in the care homes?
Well, we have just regular baby wipes, and we'll wipe them down. We want to keep the scent, obviously. So, we'll wipe them down but normally our babies honestly don't get that dirty. I mean, they're very gentle with them. They're very delicate, and they like the engagement so much. They're not, doing things that are going to make them dirty. And most of our residents that do engage with the baby dolls have their own. So they're not sharing. So I'm not concerned about the germs and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Tonja, what haven't I asked you that I should?
How I got started.
How did you get started?
Very, very personal experience for me. My grandmother, think back 20 years, my grandmother had dementia, very resilient and hard fight because we didn't know it at the time, but it was frontal. I can never say the
FTD.
Right. She had FTD. We didn't know that at the time. So she would get very aggressive, and it was very difficult to sometimes control those behaviors. So medications did not work on her. Haldol, Seroquel, those types of things. She could not metabolize that. I never saw my grandmother take a pill ever. Wow. And so medications were out of the picture. So it was not my idea to give her a doll at all. I thought it was nuts, frankly. So I relate to those families who are like, I don't want her playing with a doll. I don't want my dad doing that. Right. That was my story. My cousin brought a doll, a $6 plastic little doll about this big, to her at the nursing home because there was no memory care back then. Mm-hmm. You're on the long-term care hallway in a nursing home, and brought her a doll. And I thought it was ridiculous. I said, what is she going to do with that? Mm-hmm. And she's not going to ever believe that's real. And she said, no, I think it'll be an easy distraction for whenever you try to leave. Because anytime you tried to leave, it was, I want to go home. I want to go home. And just so emotional. I thought it was ridiculous. We wrapped it in a nursing home towel and we gently handed it to her, and she thought she had a newborn baby.
There you go. And then the project was born.
God planted the seed.
Yeah.
And said, you're going to do something with this. I did not know what that meant because at the time I did not even work in healthcare. From that, I've spent 17 years in hospice, every level you can imagine. Launched the program 5 years ago when I was still in hospice. Left the industry to go full time with the program because it grew so fast and so big so quickly. And every time we hand over a baby, I relive that moment with my grandmother. Wow. So it is all about dignity and integrity to me. And this is a God thing. I could have never come up with all of this on my own. And so that's how it started.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Sandi, what haven't I asked you that I should?
How do the residents respond when they're handed the baby? It just helps associate with their past life, familiarity of the scent of the baby and the look of the baby and the feel of the baby. Mm-hmm. So just understanding how this engagement really does enhance their lives.
Their lives and the lives of the caregivers that are always looking for ways to engage.
Lives of their loved ones, too. They ask a lot of questions. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we're constantly educating.
Thank you both.
Yeah.
Thank you both for being here. All right. We're going to cruise to the nugget portion of the program. I always like to show a cartoon just to lighten things up. This is one of my favorites. We only live once, Snoopy. Wrong. We only die once. We live every day.
Goosebumps.
Isn't that the truth, right?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
That's so beautiful. Thank you.
All right. On to the lightning round. This is an opportunity for viewers to get to know you guys on a personal basis. Okay. We're going to start with Sandi and go in rotation. Quick answers. That's Facts. Why it's called the lightning.
So you were asking us both the same question?
I am.
Okay.
We're going to start with Sandi. Sandi, where were you born and raised?
Savannah, Georgia.
Houston, Texas.
College and degree?
University of Georgia. Bachelor's in education and then nursing school.
Tonja.
Sam Houston State University, degree in criminal justice.
Sandi, what's your guilty pleasure?
I guess like a Reese's peanut butter cup.
I was going to say Snickers bar.
There you go. It's always candy on that one. Sandi, do you play a musical instrument?
I do not.
Do you? No. Sandi, are you still in touch with childhood friends?
100%, yes.
Not really.
Sandi, spicy food or plain Jane?
In the middle.
Middle.
Call or text?
Text.
Text.
Oh, goodness. Sandi, dream job as a child?
Veterinarian.
Zoologist.
What song do you have on repeat?
Oh, quite a few of Matt Nathanson's songs.
Currently, it's Hard Fought Hallelujah.
Okay. Can you change a tire?
No.
No. Sandi, iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Oh, quick answers. Are you sentimental?
Yes, but not quite as sentimental as you are.
I'm very sentimental.
I'm very sentimental.
Karaoke, yes or no?
Maybe. Depends.
You don't want it.
No. Sandi, favorite band?
Sting.
Favorite band?
Tina Turner.
Oh, goodness. Do you believe in aliens?
Not really.
Nope.
And what is the most gratifying part of your job?
being with the residents and the staff every day and teaching them and learning from them as well.
Nice. And you?
The moment we hand that baby over.
That is an
Everything
impactful
changes.
moment every time, isn't it? Wow. Thank you both for being here, sharing your
Thank you.
expertise. If you want to see this episode again or any past episodes, you can dial us up on manchesterlivingpodcast.com, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your social media. In closing, if there is ever anything I can do for you, don't hesitate to reach out directly. I'm going to put contact information up on the screen right now if you want to reach out to either of these two for more information. Thanks for watching today.